Every rider who lines up at the Isle of Man TT knows one terrifying truth. Some corners don't just decide races, they become part of history. Bray Hill, Ballagarey, Ballaugh Bridge, Ago's Leap. These aren't just names on a racing circuit. They're places where champions crashed, careers ended, spectators were injured, and lives were lost. Today, we're taking you corner by corner through the mountain course to uncover the real stories behind the most dangerous places in motorcycle racing. Bray Hill, the course's first real test. The Isle of Man TT wastes no time. Just seconds after the start, riders charge into Bray Hill, a steep downhill section that looks like an ordinary residential street, but is one of the most intimidating parts of the mountain course. As riders crest the hill at around 150 miles per hour, gravity takes over, pushing their speed toward 180 miles per hour by the bottom. The road suddenly flattens there, creating massive compression that slams the bike's suspension to its limit in an instant. With houses, stone walls, and lampposts just feet away, Bray Hill's danger was tragically proven in 1953, when rider Les Graham lost his life here during the senior TT. 6 decades later, in 2013, the danger showed itself in a different way. On the opening lap of that year's senior TT, rider Jonathan Howarth lost control on the fast downhill section. His bike disintegrated on impact, and the wheel and fuel tank were flung straight into the crowd lining the road. More than 10 spectators were injured, while Howarth himself escaped with only a minor fracture. The race was immediately red flagged, and in the aftermath, permanent safety fencing was installed at the site. Bray Hill is more than just the first fast section of the course. It's the TT's first warning. From the opening mile, it reminds everyone, riders and spectators alike, that even the smallest mistake can have devastating consequences. Ballagarey, Ballagarey. Sitting between the 3rd and 4th milestones of the course, Ballagarey is taken flat out in top gear, which is exactly why riders have nicknamed it Ballagarey. There is no runoff here, just a stone wall waiting on the outside of the corner for anyone who gets it wrong. In 2010, Guy Martin found out exactly how unforgiving this corner can be. Running second in the senior TT and battling for the lead on a full fuel tank, he lost control at roughly 170 miles per hour. The bike speared into the roadside and burst into flames, triggering the first red flag in senior TT history. Remarkably, Martin stayed conscious throughout and survived with a punctured lung and minor spinal fractures, with no permanent injury. What makes the corner even darker is that just 1 day earlier, rider Paul Dobbs had been killed in a crash at this exact same spot. Ballaugh Bridge, the iconic jump. Ballaugh Bridge is one of the most recognizable landmarks on the Isle of Man TT course. At first glance, it looks like a narrow stone humpback bridge in a quiet village. But during the TT, riders approach it at around 120 to 130 miles per hour, and as they crest the bridge, the front wheel, and sometimes both wheels, briefly leave the ground before the bike lands hard on the other side. The challenge isn't the jump itself, it's the landing. The suspension compresses instantly, and the motorcycle must remain perfectly stable as riders continue accelerating toward the next section. Landing even slightly offline, or with the bike unsettled, can cost valuable control on a road bordered by stone walls, houses and trees. Ballaugh Bridge is also a place of historical significance. During the 1939 senior TT, BMW rider Carl Goll crashed near the bridge after losing control and later died from his injuries. Today, a memorial plaque beside the course marks the location, reminding everyone that behind one of the TT's most iconic photographs lies a place with a tragic history. Brandish Corner, named after a broken career. Brandish Corner is a fast left-hander on the road between Creg-ny-Baa and Hilberry, previously known as Upper Hilberry or Telegraph Hill before it took its current name. The rider it's named after was no ordinary competitor. Walter Brandish was a 21-year-old Coventry rider, signed by the Triumph Works team, and in the 1922 senior TT, he rode brilliantly to finish second overall, missing out on breaking the 4-hour barrier by just 22 seconds. Even after losing second gear midway through the race. Going into 1923, Brandish was being widely tipped as the likely winner of that year's senior TT. In early practice, the 22-year-old had shown himself to be the fastest man on the course. Then, on a Saturday morning practice session, hurtling downhill from Creg-ny-Baa toward Hilberry, Brandish tried to overtake another rider and crashed, breaking his leg so badly that his racing career ended on the spot, before that year's race had even begun. The corner has carried his name ever since, a permanent reminder of how a single overtake attempt turned a favourite for victory into the story of a career cut short. Birkin's Bend, a swerve that cost everything. Birkin's Bend sits at Glen Helen, on the A3 road near Creg-ny-Baa, on a stretch that, at the time, was still open to normal public traffic, even during official practice sessions. The rider it's named after was Archie Birkin, younger brother of Sir Henry Tim Birkin, one of the famous Bentley boys who twice won Le Mans in a car. Archie had already survived a bad crash in the 1926 Senior TT that left him seriously injured and needing a long recovery, and by 1927 he even owned a controlling stake in his own motorcycle manufacturer, McAvoy Motors. During an early morning practice session for the 1927 TT, riding his 500cc McAvoy, Birkin came across a fish delivery van being driven on the still open public road. Swerving to avoid a collision, he crashed into a roadside hedge and was killed instantly, at just 22 years old. Guthrie's Memorial, the cutting. Guthrie's Memorial is an S-bend on the climb up the mountain section of the course, previously known simply as the cutting because of the embankments that line it. It's named after Jimmy Guthrie, a Scottish rider from Howick nicknamed the Flying Scotsman, who won 6 TT races between 1930 and 1937, along with numerous European Grand Prix victories and multiple 500cc European championships. In the 1937 Senior TT, Guthrie retired from the race at exactly this spot, on the cutting, during lap 5. It would be his last TT appearance. Just weeks later, at the German Grand Prix at the Sachsenring, Guthrie was leading the race by nearly 2 minutes on the final lap when he crashed attempting to pass a slower rider. He died from his injuries. In a strange twist, the rider who went on to win that German race, Karl Gahl, would himself die 2 years later in a crash at Ballaugh Bridge on the Isle of Man TT course, connecting two of the course's most storied corners. In 1939, a stone memorial funded by public subscription was erected at the cutting, at the exact place where Guthrie's TT career had ended, and the corner has carried his name ever since. Creg-ny-Baa, named after the Keppel Hotel pub that sits right on the corner, is one of the two most iconic spectator points on the entire course, alongside Ballaugh Bridge. It has been part of the course since 1911, when the 4-inch course first incorporated this section of road. Riders come down off the mountain and tip into a fast right-hand bend directly in front of the pub, with the road running back toward Kate's cottage forming the backdrop to one of the TT's most photographed scenes. The corner isn't just scenery, it feeds straight into one of the fastest, most demanding stretches of the lap. From Creg-ny-Baa, the road drops downhill toward Brandish, where top riders have been recorded approaching at nearly 189 miles per hour before backing off to take the long, sweeping bend at around 121 miles per hour with over 49 degrees of lean angle, holding that line for a full 6 seconds. In other words, Creg-ny-Baa isn't where the lap relaxes, it's where riders commit to one of the fastest, most sustained corners on the entire mountain course, with total precision required after miles of exposed, high-speed running across the open mountain above. Glen Helen, where it all began. Glen Helen is a fast, tree-lined section of the course, and it holds a grim distinction. It's where the Isle of Man TT's very first fatality happened. In June 1911, during practice for that year's race, the first time the mountain course itself was ever used, a 19-year-old Rudge factory rider named Victor Surridge was fighting to pass another competitor on a difficult left-hand corner near Glen Helen. He ran wide, left the road, and struck an earth bank. He was carried to a nearby hotel where he had been staying, but doctors could do nothing. The inquest concluded his death had been instantaneous. Surridge wasn't some inexperienced amateur. Just months earlier, he had set a world 1-hour motorcycle speed record at Brooklands, riding for one of the top factory teams of the era. His death came at a time when motorcycles of the day had barely any braking power, and the course had no safety barriers, no runoff, and no margin for error at all. It was the first competitor death on the mountain course, and the first fatal motor vehicle accident of any kind on the Isle of Man. More than a century and over 260 deaths later, Glen Helen still carries the weight of being where the danger of this race first became undeniable. Parliament Square, when the danger reaches the crowd. Parliament Square, in the heart of Ramsey, is one of the TT's most popular and most tightly packed spectator points. Fans stand just feet from the road as bikes fire out of the square at racing speed. Most years, that closeness is part of the thrill, but it's also exactly what makes this corner so dangerous when something goes wrong. On the opening day of practice for the 2026 TT, a rider lost control at the exit of Parliament Square during a superstock and superbike practice session. His motorcycle left the course and went straight into the crowd, pushing the barriers back into spectators standing behind them. 8 fans and the rider himself were taken to hospital. 2 spectators were later flown to the UK for further treatment. Everyone involved was reported conscious, but the session was immediately red flagged and the rest of that day's schedule was cancelled. In the aftermath, organisers permanently closed the specific viewing area involved for the remainder of the event. The first time spectators had been seriously hurt at the TT since a similar crash at Bray Hill back in 2013. Parliament Square is a reminder that on this course, the danger was never confined to the riders alone. Anyone standing at the roadside is only ever a lost front wheel away from being part of the story. A go's leap. 4 deaths. 1 corner, 1 week ago's leap. Just under a mile into the lap near Bridge. Doesn't look like it belongs on a list of the TT's most feared corners. But in 2022, it became the site of one of the darkest weeks in the race's history. During the first sidecar race that year, sidecar driver César Chenal crashed here and was killed, with his passenger Olivier Lavarelle critically injured. Lavarelle later died of his injuries as well. Just days later, in the second and final sidecar race, father and son crew Roger and Bradley Stockton, a 56-year-old with 20 TT starts behind him, and his 21-year-old son racing at the TT for the very first time, lost control at the exact same spot. Witnesses described a screeching sound followed by what one called an almighty explosion, with debris thrown through the air as their machine hit a wall. Both father and son died at the scene. A later inquest found that the sidecar's bodywork had likely been distorted by wind. It remains one of the deadliest short stretches of road in the entire history of the race. Behind every famous corner is a real story. Behind every memorial is a rider who once chased the same dream as everyone else on the starting grid. The mountain course never changes its rules. It demands absolute commitment from every competitor, every single lap. If this video helped you understand why these corners have become part of TT history, let us know which section surprised you the most. And if you'd like to see more real stories from the Isle of Man TT, don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, ride safe.